Well, folks, it's great to be back on YouTube again. The title of this presentation is a little bit different than my other presentations. It's called For Women Only, How to Tell if a Guy is a Control Freak. Now you're probably thinking, what does a guy who speaks on economic and business trends have to do with speaking on advice for determining whether or not a guy is a control freak? Well, let's look at that before we get into the meat of the subject. What is economics anyways? The classical definition of economics is the study of human behavior in its historical setting. It's all psychology, completely psychology, 100% psychology. That's all it is. I learned a lot from being single a number of years, being in the so-called trenches, plus some excellent advice I got through the years from people I respected. So let's start off with a general question. As one psychologist once put it to me many years ago, actually to a group I was in. He said, why do you date? Why do you date? Now if you had a group of 100 women, let's say, because the title is For Women Only, although I know whenever you say For Women Only, there's going to be a lot of men watching, but why do you date? You date for one reason only, and the answer is in the question. Why do you date? You date to see if you want another date with that person again. The idea is to find out something about their core personality. That's the whole idea. Find out about the core personality of the person. When you strip off the superficial veneer of the person, the niceties, what is the person like underneath? And that's what this presentation is about. How do you do that to find out if a person is a control freak? It's a very simple test, and it's also a very fun test. But in order to do it, you're going to have to step a little outside your control box, your comfort zone. Not a lot. You're going to have to do something a little different. So let's go through an example. Let's say you've been going out with this guy. Let's give him a name, not just guy. Forget about the John and the Jims. Let's call him Harry. You've been going out with Harry for 2-3 dates, and it seems to be okay. Nice guy, but you haven't really found out too much about his core. What is he really like? Well, why not create some waves? Stir the waters, create some waves, and do something different. Stability leads to stagnation. So we got to create a little turbulence to find out what Harry's like. And things have been going okay. He's been taking you out. Why don't you do this on the next date and see how he reacts? And it's a fun type thing to do. Say to Harry, I'm going to be a little bit facetious here. You know, Harry, I enjoyed being with you. You're great, you're charming and all that. Dear Harry, what I'd like to do on the next date is pick you up and take you out to dinner. That's what I'd like to do. And then the whole idea is to see how he reacts. In dating with men, the great majority of them believe that money is control. Money is control. If they're controlling the wallet, the expenditures, they're in control. It's an illusion. It's not true, but they believe it. That if they're picking up their wallets and spending and deciding what to do, they're in control. Sort of like a football team that has the football. They're in control of the football. They set the pace. So if a guy is spending the money, he's in control, he decides. In reality, no one's in control, no one could control you, but it's an illusion, it's a mirage. But they believe the mirage. So we have to go with their belief. Their belief is their reality. Even though it's false, it's still their reality. See how Harry reacts when you do that. You say to Harry, next date, Harry, I'd like to pick you up and take you out to dinner. It doesn't have to be to a fancy place, although I suggest you don't go to a Denny's. If this tape goes viral, this program goes viral, I'm sure I'm going to get a letter from the owners of Denny's saying, Dear Mr. Kahn, we really don't appreciate your remarks about not taking a date to Denny's because we really are a nice restaurant. Well, look, there's a lot of nice restaurants that have sunset dinners, early bird specials you could go to. There's a lot that have 20% off. They advertise in the paper, 20-30% off. You can go to those. And there's the entertainment book that has the 2-for-1s, and a lot of times they're advertising in your local papers anyways. The idea is you don't have to go to an expensive restaurant. The idea is to see how Harry reacts. If Harry reacts in the manner like, oh no, that's not necessary, it's absolutely not necessary, I could take care of everything, then you know that Harry likes to be in control. He really likes to be in control. He wants to hold the football and he doesn't want to share it. There's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. He's also not flexible. Harry has a narrow channel that he operates in. Narrow channel Harry, they call him. But on the other hand, if Harry says to you, hey, that's great, I really appreciate that, let's do it. Well, now Harry is giving up control in his mind. He's giving up control. He's flexible. His channel now is wide. Harry doesn't always want to be in control. That's how you tell if a guy's a control freak. It's a simple test. It's also a fun test. It's not necessarily the only test. You probably could think of some other tests. But this test will work. It'll give you an idea of where Harry's coming from. The whole point of this is that if you want to find out where a person's coming from, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. When the name of this program is for women only. I guarantee you when you have it for women only, there's going to be a lot of men watching too. If you want to find out the core personality, you got to shake up the water. You got to create a little turbulence. I firmly believe that stagnation leads to nothing but decline. If you want to be in charge or see where a person's coming, you got to be somewhat aggressive. You can't be stagnant. You can't be passive. You don't have to be hardcore. You don't have to come off as a how should I say, as a horny Viking trying to pillage and plunder villages. You don't have to do that. But you have to stir the waters and create some turbulence, and then you'll see where the core of the person is. There's another thing I'll throw in because, after all, I am a economic business speaker. It's something, a question you could ask somebody. This applies to men and women also. That very few ask, and it'll set you apart. It shows that you have something upstairs. You're thinking about the future. Let's say a person has a good job, man or woman. It doesn't matter in this case. You know they have a good job because they told you. And you have an idea about how much they make. What you could ask them that'll set you apart from everybody else, this one question, ask them this: do you save any money? Do you save any money? If they save money, they have a sense of the future. They have a plan for the future. But if they're not saving money, they live only for the present. They have no sense of the future. That'll give you an idea also where they're coming. Is this a person I want to get involved with that has a sense of the future and knows to save for the future? Or do they just are financially irresponsible, they get all their money and they just blow it? Well, that's a question you have to determine this, and this is how you do it. The point being in all this is that do something different, step outside your comfort zone, and that's how you see where somebody's coming from. Everything I tend to do is a little bit different, including the book I wrote called The 13 Great Economic Business Myths That Dominate Our Lives. It is different. As you can see, it's a narrow little book. It's sold on Amazon.com. The two most important chapters in this book is chapter number 10, having to do with the positive mental attitude myth. The crap called the positive mental attitude myth. People believe that you have to have a positive mental attitude to succeed in life and in your ventures and various activities in life. That's absolutely false. Since when is anything constant in nature? Take a look at nature when you step out. What's going around you. It's dynamic. It's in movement. Nothing is constant. You can never have a positive mental attitude all the time. It's nice to have it, but it's almost impossible to have it. And if you force yourself to have it, you'll probably destroy yourself. There's something much more important than a positive mental attitude that'll help ensure your success and advancement. Read chapter 10. If you get the book, read chapter 10. It tells you what it is and then how to apply it in both your personal life and also in your professional life. The next most important chapter is chapter 12, one that I got criticized when I first wrote it. It was based on an article I wrote called The New Feudal Society, How to Prosper in the Coming Age of Poverty and Privilege. I wrote this when the economy was booming. This was an article, then I put it in the book. And I got criticized, but it's interesting who criticized me. It was put on e-zine articles, and I got some emails from college professors who live in an ivory castle and thought this was absolutely crazy what I wrote. Well, it's turning out to be true. This is the second most important chapter. We are going into a new feudal society with new business lords and business serfs. And your choice, you just have two choices. You want to be a business lord or a business serf. The chapter explains how you have to think to separate yourself from being a business serf. and thinking of yourself as a business lord. Standard of livings of this country for the middle class, well, for the great majority of Americans, are going to continue to go down as long as we feel we can create economic wealth by debauching, corrupting the dollar just by printing dollars. It won't work. It'll destroy the middle class, and that'll lead to the new business lords and the business serfs. I'd like to ask you a favor, that if you thought this video has some merit and some interesting information, I appreciate if you could pass it on to your friends and associates. It'll help them out too. For all of you, I'd like to wish you all much success and advancement. Ladies and gentlemen, thumbs up!